My name is Professor Fred Ogola. Today I'm addressing you on the economic implication of passing the Family Protection Bill. In as much as the family needs to be protected, in as much as I believe on the African values because I am an African I'm an African person, we also have to understand things into context. First and foremost, what problem are we trying to address by passing the Family Protection Bill? In Uganda, there was a chance whereby people started recruiting people to misuse them using what's called homosexuals, started recruiting young girls and boys and misusing them. And that's why Uganda passed the LGBTQ bill. In Ghana, it was more of someone who has personal relationship with the US that came up with the bill, sponsored by Honorable George. South Africa, having had a very long history of discrimination under apartheid, they discovered there was no need to put any form of discrimination either in their laws or the constitution because they passed through apartheid. So they are very clear in Article 9 that there is no discrimination of any kind, whether it's on sex, whether it's on gender, whether it's on race, whether it's on color, or anything else. There's no form of discrimination. And I can tell you very well that the Family Protection Bill brings discrimination among certain people. Remember when we went to court on the Finance Act, the basis of nullifying the Finance Act was on discrimination. And I think that the bill sponsored by Charles Kanjama and Kaluma against the people who have declared that they have tendencies of LGBTQ is going to end up being discriminational. Why am I saying this so? First of all, we have to find that as a Christian, as a Catholic, as an African, as a Kenyan, the Bible, there are 26 verses in the Bible that says that LGBTQ acts are sins. They are immoral. And therefore, those means that they fall in the domain of the church. The Pope, which is the head of the Catholic Church, is infallible on matters faith and moral. And the Pope has said that God hates sinners. God hates sin, but God does not hate sinners. God wants sinners to be given a chance to recover. So the Pope has declared that the LGBTQ people needs protection. They need care. They have talked about the issue of duty of care to be given to them by the priests, and all religious have been ordered by the Pope to give them the duty of care. Now, I'm sure that Charles Kanjama confesses Opus Dei faith, and I believe that Charles Kanjama is a religious person and should be able to obey the Pope's order because the Pope cannot be wrong on matters moral and faith. And I believe that for them pretending that they are fighting LGBTQ and sponsoring a bill against them, they are doing something which is not very helpful. Why am I trying to say so? We have to know that the highest level of laws comes from divine law, which is given by God. That is followed by national law. So national law, it defines the human nature. So some people are born with more than one sexual organs. So naturally, it's not something they are put in themselves. That is how it is. So if you want to take them for 50 years in jail, in which jail do you take them? Can you take them to a female cell or you take them to the male cell? Will you create a cell for each and every individual throughout the country? How much cost that is? And we have done tabulation of the cost of constructing prisons and also offering financial care, all the spiritual care is around 11.5 billion shillings that we have to blow every year in doing that. The cost of building those prisons will be around another 28 billion shillings. And we found out that development partners like the IMF, World Bank, remember IMF, World Bank, US, UK, EU, funds Kenya, not just the national budget, but also humanitarian support. They have threatened to withdraw those support in case we pass an LGBTQ. The total economic implication of passing that bill will make Kenya lose 4.186 trillion shillings. that comes just not in terms of borrowing, but also comes in terms of grants and humanitarian response. So the question is, why should you risk that one while we are not going to solve the problem? It is very clear that the bill is going to pass in Parliament. Members of Parliament have confessed they don't read bills. 300 members of Parliament have no time to read the bills. That includes Honorable Kaluma. Now, we are again going to pass a bill in Parliament which Parliament won't read and thoroughly look at its implication. That's why I'm standing here to tell them before they pass it that the economic implication is 4.186 trillion Kenya shillings. They want to do. I want to tell Mr. President, do not go through the predicament of Ghana, of Uganda, by signing this to law in case it comes to your desk. But should you want to sign it, put your mouth where your pen and money is. Before you sign that, put aside or set aside 4.186 trillion shillings. Should that be your priority, then tell us that you have solved all the problems Kenya have. One, doctors should not be on strike while you're focusing on something which is not even legal. Remember, I've told you that this matter is a moral issue. It's a sin issue. It is not legal issue. It's not a constitutional issue, but it is to do with ethical issue, which is a moral issue. We should be left to the church, psychiatrists, psychologists, and other people in society who can help them through NGO to support these people so that they can look like they're living a normal life in Kenya. Remember, we have a right to live normal life. I'm not saying I'm in support of LGBTQ, but I am not in support of LGBTQ acts. Just like even you, if you are heterosexual, I cannot support you to defile a child. I cannot support you to commit adultery. I cannot support you to commit fornication, because these are all sins. And the church is very clear. Hakuna dhambi ndogo. There is no sin which is smaller. Whether these guys are committing LGBTQ acts is sinful, equal to heterosexual. I want to challenge Kanjama, and I want to challenge also Kaluma. There is corruption in this country which has been institutionalized by all sectors. Even they receive bribes in Parliament to pass bills. Why don't they deal with corruption first? Because corruption is worse than LGBTQ acts. Why am I trying to say so? Corruption, if you like, is unethical. Corruption is immoral. Corruption is illegal. Corruption is unconstitutional. LGBTQ acts is only immoral, but it's not illegal. It's not unconstitutional. So why are we punishing these people so hard when we have matters that are of agency? The other thing which is very clear here is that we have done research and found out that you have to construct so much prisons. You have to do capacity building to pastors. You have to do capacity building among psychologists who will be dealing with these people when they have been arrested. At the same time, you're losing labor. If you jail a young person who is 12, 10 years into a cell for 50 years, you have derailed a life. How do you lose such labor? By loss of labor. At the same time, when these people are being harassed, they may not be able to access jobs. How will they have their livelihoods? Remember, these are sons to somebody, these are uncles to somebody, these are brothers to somebody. Who will be taking care of them? Has the government set aside some funds to protect these people in case they are in these challenges? If someone who has been a breadwinner in a family is arrested, what do you do to that family which has been condemned? So I'm looking at it from purely economic perspective. Another thing that is worth considering is that let us not look at these things by saying the West is interfering with our culture. The West cannot interfere with our culture if we use our culture. Remember when World Cup was done in Qatar, Qatar was very clear. You cannot drink inside the stadium, you can drink in an hotel or in a bar. Why don't we come up with our rules that guards us against the West? I don't like these things of blaming America, blaming UK. Every time there's a problem, blame America and blaming UK. Those countries have their own past interests, just like Kenya needs to have their own interests. Why don't we align our interests with their interests? But we have to find a way on which we protect our culture. I remember when Uhuru Kenyatta was visited by Obama, President Uhuru Kenyatta told Obama that the issue of homosexuality, leave it to us, we know how to deal with it. And that was very clear. That's the national position we have. We have mechanisms. Remember, even during Sodom and Gomorrah, these issues were there. There are ways they were dealt with. And if you look at biblical argument, when God was talking to Abraham and he was asked, should you find 100 people only who are good in Sodom, will you destroy? God said no. If you find 50, will you destroy? God said no. Up to 10, God said no. Eventually, they could only find 2 people who are good in Sodom and Gomorrah. And God decided to take away those 2 people out from there. That's why Lot was there, Lot and his wife. In Kenya, we don't have too many people who are having those tendencies. Why do we punish them? Because if you try to do that and we lose the economic support we are getting, some people will be condemned to poverty and actually death. Why do we risk other people's economic livelihoods just for the sake of few people? Why don't we find a way to accommodate them, to support them, to ensure they coexist with us and live a normal life than actually going forward to punish them? I also want to refer you to the parable that was told by Jesus of the sower, whereby someone sowed good seeds and someone sowed weeds. And the master was asked, should he go and pluck the weeds? So let's assume that these guys who are LGBTQ are weeds in our system. And Jesus said, no, don't pluck them, because you might actually, by time trying to pluck the weeds, you can destroy the wheat. So let the wheat and the weeds coexist until the last day of harvesting, when the Father will separate the wheat from the weeds. So even for me, let us not judge these people. Let us allow God to judge them. In the goodness of time, God will judge this thing. So let them coexist with us. Let us just protect them, but let us not allow them to interfere with other people's rights, just like we cannot interfere with their own rights. So that's what you mean by coexistence. So why don't we pass laws that protect not just those who are not LGBTQ, but also laws that protect those with LGBTQ, so that we can coexist. But my main point here is that we should not use a legal tool to treat a moral issue. We should not use the Constitution to do everything. There are some things that are not about Constitution. There are some things just about good manners. There are some things just about the social habits we should have. Let us find a way to protect everybody and coexist with everybody. Because this matter whereby everything should be taken to Parliament for amendment, there are so many things that needs amendment in Parliament. Let them focus on gender imbalance in Parliament, where they have never met gender balance. Let them focus on why youths are not in Parliament, which has not met the constitutional threshold. Let us focus on people live with disability, whose rights are not being taken care of by Parliament. Let them focus on how government is giving people toxic fertilizers, toxic seeds, toxic oil, edible oil, toxic sugar, toxic medicine. Let us focus on those ones. Those are more important areas to focus on. But I can tell you, these are agents who are being paid by some people, because there is no MP in Parliament who has ever been interested in something that helps Mwananchi unless they are being paid money. That's why bills pass in Parliament being funded. And let me address Kanjama, Charles Kanjama directly. There's a priest who defiled a 16-year-old girl, and this priest was taken to court. And you are the attorney trying to help him out of this case, even pleading for his freedom. If you really believe on African values, is defilement African? I hear this again, people saying that homosexuality is un-African. Is corruption African? Is defilement African? Is stealing African? So let us not use the African card only when it favors. That's hypocrisy. For me, let us use these standards across the board. When we like it and when we don't like it, the law remains what is law. And I'll finish by saying there's what we call a clash of rights. Whenever everybody wants to have a right, right for everybody should be protected, and then there will be a clash of rights. Let us use hierarchy of rights. In this matter, let us use divine law. God does not hate sinners, but God hates sin. So until they commit sin, there is totally no problem. Thank you.